Hello, you are listening to the OmniTalk Fast Five, brought to you in partnership with Microsoft, the A&M Consumer and Retail Group, Takeoff, and Sezzle. The OmniTalk Fast Five is the podcast that we hope makes you feel a little smarter, but most importantly, a little happier each week too. Today is January 20th. I am your host, Ann Mazinga.
And I am Chris Walton.
We are here once again to discuss all the top headlines making waves in the world of omnichannel retailing this week. Chris, before we get started, how does it feel to be named a top 100 retail influencer? Because you got the big nomination this week.
Oh my gosh, Ann, I know, but I should ask you, how does it feel for you to be named a top 100 retail influencer? That was the big news out of this week, huh?
It's pretty exciting. You know, I feel like I should have prepared a speech or something, but instead we'll just blabber on about retail again, like we usually do every day.
We usually do. Yeah, it basically means that. Here's the other thing I'd say to those watching. It means nothing to me at home. Like my wife doesn't like treat me any differently. You know, she isn't like, hey, you're an influencer. Like, and yeah, I have no, it doesn't help me at all.
We were still 3 seats away from the toilet on the flight home from NRF yesterday. So no upgrades happening for being a top. Don't you know we're top 100 retail influencers?
I know, right? Like, come on, boarding priority. No, didn't happen. But I see that you dressed for the occasion too. I do have to point out that for those watching on video, that you have a nice black turtleneck. I wonder what inspired you to wear that this week.
I was inspired by Chris Walton's outfits, sporting he was sporting for the NRF Innovation Lab coverage that we did the last couple of weeks, and it's -16 as the high today in Minneapolis.
Yeah, it is. It's freezing again. But yes, we're back from NRF. We got back last night on the plane. We're here, ready to roll. I'm excited. NRF I actually thought NRF beat my expectations. I thought for the most part there weren't many people there, but everyone I talked to seemed, relatively positive about it. A lot of vendors said they had some good conversation with the retailers that are there. I loved it too, Ann. Shout out to Chad Edwards and Lauren Alston, who just popped over to the booth and were like big fans of the show. Yes. Want to give them a shout out because we love when you guys do that. It's such a great feeling and it means so much to us.
Yeah, it was great. I think as everybody is aware, a lot of people had to pull out, but what we were hearing from the partners in the innovation lab and just really throughout the show is how many conversations were happening between vendors, which doesn't usually get to happen because they're all, they're stuck to their booths. So I'm kind of excited to see if there's some new, collaborations and partnerships that come out of NRF because it was the way it is. So I'm gonna stay hopeful, Chris. 2022, the year of positivity and hope.
NRF was like a petri dish in more ways than one, Ann. I think that's what you're saying. But Ann, I'm pretty pumped. I'm super excited for this show because the topics are cool. But joining us today are our friends from the A&M Consumer and Retail Group. So we have David Ritter back. David, how are you today?
I'm great. I'm feeling very influenced. Congrats on the
influenced, maybe even because of his shirt choice. The good old Dave here, he's sporting the flannel shirt today.
Yeah, he's got lumberjack plaid on. That's fantastic.
Lumberjack plaid, Dave.
Cold front in Austin, down below 30. That's
oh my gosh, is that cold there? Wow.
You get a cut from Eddie Bauer for every shirt that you wear on our show. We're gonna drop the link in the show notes to get Dave's shirt so he can get his affiliate revenue. Yes.
Social commerce at work. And then also today, for the first time joining the show, although we've had him express his thoughts in our 5 insightful minutes segment to some acclaim before, and that is Jonathan Sharp. Jonathan, how are you?
Hey, I'm very good. Thank you very much. Do I qualify as long-time listener, first-time caller? Maybe.
I think you can. I think so.
Excellent.
I think that.
I also noticed that if I zip up my half zip, it's almost a turtleneck. So
yes,
I'm with the mode. Yes. I'm with the mode.
That's a nice jumper. Jonathan. I like it. Well, hey, we got some headlines to get to, you two. So let's get right to it. Today, in today's Fast Five, we're going to talk Gopuff's new private label line, the latest news in the checkout free wars, Checkers and Rally's rolling out voice ordering at the drive-thru, a new startup that just raised $25 million to help people not buy now, but save now and pay later. But first, we're going to take off, as we always do, with seemingly the continuing evolution of Walmart's home delivery plans. And
That is right, Chris. This week, Walmart, yet again, said they'll be offering 24/7 delivery to Florida customers by way of a smart box that sits on the porch. So here's how it works. According to Chain Storage, the smart box from Home Valet, which we covered a few months
like last
ago.
January or something.
Yeah,
That was a long time
on the
ago.
podcast. Yes. Enables unattended delivery of fresh groceries and packages directly to consumers' front doors. So you have the mobile app. It's a subscription service. Consumers can conveniently customize, manage, monitor, and remotely control their smart boxes for delivery anytime. The smart boxes have to be pre-ordered on the company's website with an initial down payment of $50 to reserve, and a nebulous as low as $499 commitment on the site. So the app is currently downloadable for a monthly subscription of $15 per month. There's a lot of asterisks. I can't even speak today.
What going on here today?
I know.
NRF hangover
on this offer. But I want to start by going right to you, Dave Ritter, because I want to get your thoughts on the new Home Valet Smart Box delivery from Walmart.
So first, I think you got to talk about the concept. And I actually really like the concept. I think the notion of allowing people into the home, into the fridge, was always a little far-fetched for me. Even into the garage was a little bit much. This feels much less intrusive. And I think that it is a natural evolution of last mile delivery and grocery. One of the biggest pain points that customers call out beyond product substitutions is the difficulty getting it scheduled conveniently. And the name of the game in delivery is convenience. I do have some issue with the pricing models. It feels like there's a lot of work to be done there, and
some hidden fees.
Quite a bit of lack of clarity there.
Yes.
Jonathan, what do you think?
Yeah.
Well, I thought this was the pricing definitely filters on time-pressed convenience premium customers. That's for sure. So they're going to get the right bunch of folks. From a retailer's point of view, it's fantastic, isn't it? It allows you to drive all of your kind of delivery efficiencies and network densities in ways that you want without being constrained by when the customer's home, and you get them to pay for it. I mean, that's fantastic, isn't it? I'm just waiting for someone to come up with, I don't know, a remote smart chef or something on my doorstep that hands me a meal. That's the next evolution.
Yeah, well, that's actually the cool thing about this Home Valet. Like for those people who didn't listen to the podcast before, it's essentially a cooler that has compartments that you can, do using the app. You can, set the temperature so that you can, like you're saying, Jonathan, you can do like heat and eat meals in one section, freezer in another, and then, shelf stable goods in the middle. And it can all be contained in this one cooler on your doorstep. So, there's a potential for future chef-driven meals. I think, for me, I'll just go quick, and then Chris, I want you to wrap it up with your thoughts. But I think this idea of Home Valet, like Dave and Jonathan are saying, like this service is a good one. It's certainly better to me than in-fridge delivery, but I still expect, especially during a pilot, that Walmart's going to pick up some of the slack here, that it's not just going to be like, we're dumping this nebulous, like $499 fee plus the monthly subscription fees plus. And I think that I'm still expecting there to be some like give and take here with Walmart to just get some early adoption of this home delivery cooler. Chris, what do you think?
My take's similar to what you guys have said. I mean, I was doing the math on this. Let's say you're in for $500 for the box at the low end, right? $180 for the subscription, another $100 for Walmart Plus. That you're in for near the $800 in the first year. That seems like a lot of money. So that's definitely not going to work in the long run for the mass market of American grocery delivery. But I love the idea in the sense of, it's much, much better than in your fridge delivery, which, by the way, they were talking about a week beforehand. So like there's an odd coincidence to the timing of these announcements again, which makes me wonder what the heck's going on at Walmart too. There seems like there's a lot of this PR coming, which makes me really curious to see what the earnings statements are going to be here in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, good point. But the other point too, like it also all activates through the Walmart app. Through the Home Valet app, which I think is really weird. And so that's a problem even in the long run that you got to figure out. Like I could get by the cost coming down, but the experience going through the Home Valet app seems really, really strange to me from the get-go. That would be the last point I would have. I don't know, David, Jonathan, you guys have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, no, I thought that was odd, right? Like if you're Walmart, wouldn't you want to have the experience go through your kind of platform? It definitely felt like a strange move. I imagine that if they scaled beyond this pilot, that it would go through the Walmart app or at least the Walmart owned app.
Yeah, it's gonna have to move that direction in some way, shape, or form. All right, well, let's keep rolling because this next headline is gonna be pretty fun. I think it's right in your guys' wheelhouse too. And that is that Gopuff this week launched its first private label line. The line known as Basically with a comma at the end because Natch, why wouldn't it?
There's so many things I want to talk about, like that I can't say on the podcast, but keep going.
Well, basically, the Basically line includes bottled water, snacks, batteries, paper products, and other household essentials. And then get this, another line of snacks under the brand Basically Amazing is said to be coming soon as well. Jonathan, got to get your take on this move. What do you think of this one?
Okay, well, we'll get into the naming and branding and all that stuff later, but let's put that to one side. Look, in convenience, the smart way to drive margin has been not through like-for-like pricing, but by removing comparability and managing the basket. And private label's always been a really smart way to do that. So, about 15 points of price differential between supermarket and convenience. About 10 of those 15 has usually come from assortment management, and only 5 has come from price comparison. So I guess this is smart. I think the other thing that's in its favor is that Gopuff and all the rest of the hyperlocal, it's definitely a service proposition. And therefore you have a lot more leeway with the assortment because you're fundamentally buying in because of super convenience rather than the assortment choices. It triggers a whole bunch of questions, which we might want to get into around kind of how it, what it does for their business partnerships, where else it could go, et cetera, et cetera. But on the economics, I completely get it. Now, let's all put our turtlenecks on and do the marketing stuff, but that's a different issue.
Yeah, Ed, I think he teed it up for you. What do you think? What would you add to what Jonathan said, or what's your comments on the marketing side here?
I think Jonathan said it. They're focusing on the economics here. They're pulling to find every last coin in the couch cushion that they can so that they can make the economics of instant delivery work. But I think, look, this works in the stores. It works when you have the own brands next to next to the national brands. You give customers another choice, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's a great move forward, at the very least to test. Now, I think Jonathan brings up some really good points though about what does that do to their relationships with, some of the national players and bigger brands. But it works in the stores. Why not try it in this case and try to make up some extra cash?
So you guys are both all in on this then, it sounds like. David, do you have the same opinion?
I do, but it's slightly different variant. I think Gopuff is one of the only players that owns their own distribution network. So that kind of makes this possible for them. If you look at the DoorDashes and Instacarts of the world, as they move from 2-hour to 15-minute, like they can't actually do this without building out a distribution network themselves. So I think it's actually a really interesting way for Gopuff to be more profitable than its competitors, which in the long run could be really important.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's what I think you guys, I agree with everything you guys said too on this one. It's funny how we're in alignment so far. I'm curious if that continues throughout the show, but yeah, I mean, we had the Gopuff CEO or co-CEO, Rafael Elisayev, on earlier this week, and he talked about how their strategy was what David just said. It was all about vertical integration. And this plays right into that. And then now it's them getting control of their own assortment, which gives them a little more power, a little more flexibility, and be able to meet the needs of the consumer. Then, of course, you get the price comparisons on site. I think it's just natural. And shout out to Jessica Glendenning, former Target colleague of ours, and who is heading this effort up for Gopuff too. That was really cool to see coming from her work previously at Brandless, which we've talked about a lot. This seems like a much better move on that front. But I mean, I think overall, I think I'm with you guys. I think net, it seems like a smart play here. And you got to talk about, we can't move on until you talk about your instant delivery experience this past week in New York too, because I think it's really salient for everyone to hear about it.
Absolutely. I mean, Chris and I, we were locked into the hotel, just trying to get ready and prep. And so, going out, especially during COVID, into a city that you're not, super familiar with the surroundings, to be able to get we got water delivered to our room. I had placed an order and I had 2 orders in 15 minutes, not 1 order, but 2 orders. I had forgotten to order something. So I quickly entered it in actually Bike's app, and within 7 minutes for some delivery. We did it again yesterday to get some Advil for Chris's feet that were so sore after standing at the show for both of us, actually.
Yeah, I hurt my leg. I couldn't walk, and I got Advil in 7 minutes. It was crazy.
Exactly. Like, we ordered it from the room, and before, like, we were rushing to get down in the elevator to get this. So, and now that we've done it, I mean, I was hooked. I think I did it 6 times while we were in New York. But I think, Chris, just to add on, like, not just from Gopuff, but we also talked to the Bike CEO, which will be releasing in a couple of days here. But vertical integration is the name of the game. They are all talking about ways to figure out how they add and stack more into the platform that they are in control of operations of. So I think that's something key to watch out for.
Can I just add, I just want to add one question. It's a question, but it occurred to me is, I wonder if you'll see that basically assortment made available to independents, to bodegas. So will you actually see it becoming a private brand, but that they only provide it to independents? Which actually, from their point of view, might be quite attractive, because you'd establish brand presence and credibility. You could also establish a price point which allows you to then look less premium through your hyperlocal platform. Just a thought. Just watch out for that.
Whoa, mind blown. Didn't even see that angle coming. Yeah, and that's not traditionally something you see in that space either. So that's kind of fascinating to think about when you. Wow, great call out, Jonathan.
All right, you guys, let's move on to headline number 3. So we had 2 huge headlines in the ongoing computer vision and checkout free wars this week. The first was Trigo announcing that they are coming to America. They're coming stateside with Wakefern. And second, that iFi has opened a checkout free store with Aldi over in the UK, another market that's been expanding very rapidly when it comes to checkout free convenience stores. Jonathan, I'm going to go to you first. Which do you feel is the more important announcement? Trigo bringing checkout free tech after its success with Tesco in the UK stateside, or Aldi opening up this 6,000 square foot space with iFi?
Okay, so I'm not trivializing either of them, but I think I think the Aldi thing is a BFD.
Yeah, what do you
think? BFD, wow.
What?
I seriously do.
Explain.
Well, you don't want me to explain the acronym, do you? Because I think you'd get I get adult rating in the
that part we're good with. But yes, talk about the Aldi. The Aldi. Why do you think Aldi's the bigger story here?
So here's why. I put myself in the shoes of sort of an exec at one of the incumbent grocers in the UK or in Europe, right?
Okay.
Here's the world in which you've lived. You've lived in a world in which the discounters entered. They took pricing down in the market as a whole. You did a whole load of work on taking cost out of your business and rationalizing your assortment to compete. And you thought you'd close the back gap, and you thought you had new sustainability in market pricing. And then along come these guys who you've always regarded as having the lowest cost model, particularly on labor. Right. And they say, do you know what? We've got a super standardized store and operating model. It allows us to scale technology way faster than you. And we're going to go again and take labor costs out of our business. If you're an exec in an incumbent grocer in Europe, you're thinking, seriously, please?
What are you going to do next? Give them bags?
You're thinking WTF,
give them their own bags?
Jonathan? Exactly. WTF, right?
I mean, kind of is, what do we do next? Because these guys, because of their model, because of the standardization of their model, et cetera, they can just replicate this at far greater speed, I would imagine. And then what are they going to do with the cost saving? Well, we kind of know what they're going to do with the cost saving.
Right.
That's interesting. David, what do you think?
So I thought both of these stories were important, but I'll lean towards Trigo just because I think that they're on fire, right? They've had success in Europe, and now they're entering North America. But the more important point to me is around regional grocery in the US. I don't think Wakefern is getting enough credit for their innovation. So they did micro-fulfillment first with Takeoff. They've done this. I mean, I think there's a subset of regional grocers, call it the Wakeferns, the Giant Eagles, the Schnooks of the world, that are really leaning into innovation. And in my opinion, that's a good sign for regional grocers in the competition against the Krogers and the Walmarts of the world.
That's a great point, Dave. Chris, you've got something to say. I
do. I want to come back to Jonathan's point. And full disclosure, I think everyone that listens to this program a lot knows this, that we've done a lot of work with Trigo over the years. So, please take that in what I'm about to say. But I would side with David too. I think it's still Trigo. I think, don't get me wrong, the Aldi announcement is also huge, but it comes with one caveat, and I made sure to find out the accuracy of this information. The Aldi store that's opening in London is actually a new build. Mm-hmm. And so for Trigo, like a new build for Trigo is like drawing drawing something in crayon in my bathtub, right? Like it's so easy for them. It's like a walk in the park I don't know this for sure, but I got to imagine based on what they've done with other retailers, they're going to take a retrofit type approach with Wakefern too, or they have at least shown the capability of doing that with a large scale grocer like a Tesco. So I think while it's cool that they're doing it with Aldi, the bigger signal here is that someone in America is finally doing this. The regional grocer point is dead on too. Like it's cool to see somebody regionally starting to do this. So that's why I'd still give the edge to Trigo, because it signals that now it's come to America and now hopefully more people get on board, but not to downplay the Aldi side of it. But I think there's more that needs to come before I think we get to the point of, OS. Now we're going to scale this across Aldi really quickly.
So many acronyms in this.
I know, right? I'm trying not to
unreal.
swear in this episode for the first time.
Yeah, I do think we need to give some credit to Aldi and the iFi team. This is the largest checkout free outside of an Amazon produced store that we are seeing in market right now. But again, I have to agree with you guys. I think Trigo here is the stronger story. I think it's only a matter of time. The acceleration that we're going to see in this space in this next year, even alone, once Trigo opens that store this year with Wakefern, is going to make that 6,000 square foot store just a one small benchmark, and we're going to go far beyond that to your earlier points. But
Jonathan, I'm curious, like what's you get the retort here, because it seems like we were kind of all three of us, David, Anna, and myself, were kind of gearing towards what you said, had our guns pointing towards you. What do you think? Final word.
No, well, I didn't take it that way. I thought we were arguing between a BFD and a BFFD or something.
Right. That's true, actually. Yes. But still arguing, right?
Yeah. So let me just counter a little bit let me just make the case for Aldi one more time, which is I want us to play a bit of a mind game, which is imagine they can replicate this in retrofit, which I do believe they're best placed to be able to do because of the standardization of their store model and the simplicity of their assortment. Let's imagine they do. What do you think happens when Aldi takes, 3 points of margin out of their business and decides to put half of it into pricing, but get this, puts half of it into service and comes after bakery and deli, so looks a little bit more like Lidl? I mean, now you've got the three horsemen of the apocalypse going on for like incumbent grocers. So I just think a model like Aldi delivering a new round of price cuts and service enhancement is just like a rock in a pond in the grocery sector.
Yeah, that's a great way to frame it up here, too. I think, in some ways we're probably remiss with the way we ask the question too, because it could be that Aldi getting into checkout free retail is the biggest story. And the question ultimately is, what is the provider upon which they're going to do that? And that is still way open. God knows who they could be working with on that front too. But that the fact that it's coming could raise all those issues you're saying that's pretty damn important, I think, at the end of the day. All right, well, let's keep moving. Headline number 4, fast food chains Checkers and Rally's are rolling out automated voice ordering at the drive-thru. According to Chain Store Age, again, Checkers drive-in restaurants, which operates Checkers and Rally's, will roll out Presto's automated voice ordering technology to all of its approximately 260 stores or restaurants during 2022. The news comes after Checkers and Rally's conducted a detailed pilot program of Presto's automated voice ordering technology at multiple locations over a 4-month period of time, and found that the solution delivered a high level of automation and accuracy, with reportedly over 98% of drive-thru orders completed with minimal intervention from restaurant employees. Now, Jonathan, back to you. I just did a panel at NRF with experts from NVIDIA and Lenovo, and I asked them, I said, where are we going to see AI impact retail the most in 2022? And I was shocked to hear them say voice ordering. So my first question is, what is your take on this headline? And would you be advising clients to make similar investments in this space?
Good question.
Yeah, so I saw this and I was reminded, I may have got the source of the quote wrong, but wasn't it Steve Jobs who said that voice was the ultimate user interface? And I think he's been proven right. Now, I think it's interesting that we're seeing this in the restaurant sector. And I think there are a bunch of reasons why it's particularly salient and why I think perhaps more traditional kind of grab and pay retailers should just pause for a minute. So a few things. One is that in the restaurant sector, one of the things we've seen with screen-based customer ordering is that the customer trades themselves up. So the business case is driven, initially people think the business case is driven by labor savings, but it's actually driven by higher ticket. Because whenever the consumer's faced with the choice of whether to trade up, when someone asks them, they're less likely to do it than when they privately choose to do it. So technology allows sort of private guilty pleasure and, you know, adding that sundae and toffee fudge and all that sort of stuff without anyone else knowing. So I can see why voice in this sector, especially with intelligence-driven suggestions, is very conducive to the consumer. It's very friendly. It's a very easy way to drive the business case. I just think we need to think about what are the other environments in which the consumer can do this using voice. It's not going to work, well, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't see how it works in a traditional store setting in the aisle. I do think, though, there's this really interesting question about, does it allow us to displace a whole load of ordering out of the store using our mobile device? Because that's a voice-based platform. So is that where it takes us? I don't know. The thing I'm uncertain on is where it expands. I completely get it in the restaurant sector.
Yeah, this is cool. We're going to go deep on this too, because I think you just raised a ton of points that I think our audience deserves us to go at a very low level into. David, what do you think?
So I agree with Jonathan on the, it does drive a bigger ticket, but I think we'd be remiss to not talk about rising wages, labor shortages, anything you can do to automate in retail and or restaurants, I think tends to be a good idea in the current environment. And if you can do it in a way that's pleasing to the customer, it feels like a no-brainer.
Do you think that the dynamics of quick service restaurants versus like a traditional retail environment playing this at all? Like, would you be advising clients in quick serve to look at this more closely than you would, say, traditional retailers?
I think this technology is probably more applicable to quick service restaurants than it is to a traditional retailer. But I think, call centers and other places like that that retailers operate, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay. And what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, what I love about this is it's just another tool in the tool belt for retailers in general, particularly QSR. I mean, just because you're deploying QSR ordering does not mean that it's, shifting the entire model to removing people from the operation. I think that, we talked to a company just at NRF, Vistry AI, who the founder, Atif, was saying, like, look, you don't have to, it's not one or the other. It's, you can dial it all the way back to, you have AI taking orders and serving the customer. And the only point of contact that your brand has with the customer is handing the food off, directly to the consumer. Or you can have, somebody checking this. I think it solves for so many things and lets the QSR retailer especially dial up or dial down depending on what staffing looks like that day. Like, did somebody show up for work that day, and do they need to completely automate the drive-through process, and can they put staffing onto other places throughout? And I think also, as we start to take this into other retail applications, I think it's only going to, QSR is only going to train the customer to, know how to do this as we get into maybe apparel, use cases or customer service use cases. So I'm 100% in for this.
That's interesting. That's interesting to me, because I think there's some subtle points to this that I would attribute to a big epiphany I had at NRF, and I don't remember who we were interviewing.
Yeah.
It might've been Kroger at the time. I think it was Kroger, where, they said where you can find standardized processes that happen the same way over and over again. Those are tailor-made for AI to work really well.
Right.
And so when I look at the quick service restaurant industry with ordering at a menu, you've got a small subset of items. People are generally doing it the same way. They're probably making the same types of substitutions over and over again. Yeah, maybe you don't want pickles on your Big Mac, but like that's easy to understand versus when you start getting the adoptions in like customer service relationships, or even Jonathan, like you said, ordering on my mobile phone across 120,000 plus SKUs at a Walmart, give or take. Like that becomes infinitesimally more complicated. And so that's why for me, I'm still like, I see the use case in QSR, plus it can be buoyed by the employee that's still there, right? They're not gone out of this equation. I mean, they even alluded to that in the fact that, they still have someone there in the article. So that I think makes the application very different. Where if I was me personally, if I was thinking on the retail side, I wouldn't be jumping into this as much as say, using AI for delivery optimization, AI forecasting, inventory monitoring, computer vision for inventory monitoring, things like that. Those seem like better use cases for me than focusing on voice. But I don't know what you guys think, if you have any last thoughts on that.
Well, voice is super simple, right? So again, let's play an imagination game, right? Which is, let's think about a fast-growing model, which is all about convenience and the platform is technology based and the assortment is relatively edited, and where you'd like to be able to trade people up to expand your margin. Well, I'm thinking something like Gopuff, right? So I wonder, I think in edited assortment, high convenience factor retail,
right?
It's interesting.
That's a great expansion on that whole argument. David, what do you think here?
I tend to be in your camp. I do think that the more narrow the assortment or the list of items, the better this will be. That said, I think Jonathan's point is very valid, that in targeted, kind of more controlled retail spaces, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's a fascinating point too, because we've talked about instant delivery and you talked about it being like such a hook psychologically. If then they can make the hook so much easier from a facilitation through voice ordering, holy crap. I mean, we just ran into a really good territory that I had no idea we were going to go into today. But Anne, what do you think? Final word.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing you can't think of voice alone either. So as a retailer who's investigating this, I would say, yes, you should be investing resources in voice and how it applies and works with other elements of your business. I mean, Chris Rupp said, when we interviewed her at NRF2, the chief digital officer of Albertsons, they're applying AI to buy it again orders. And so I think when you start to tie those things in of like, what's AI pulling from you to choose from to narrow that selection when you do have 100,000 plus SKUs in a store, like that, using voice with that, I think to me makes sense. So it's not acting alone.
Yeah.
But let's get to the last headline, you guys, because Chris loves this one. I can't wait to hear what Dave and Jonathan think about this. All right. So headline number 5, save now, buy later. That's right. Save now, buy later, not buy now, pay later. Startup Accrue Savings just raised $25 million. So what is save now, buy later, you may ask? Well, it works like this. According to Payments Dive, a shopper who wants to save for a pair of, say, Allbirds shoes can choose a payment schedule using an Accrue savings account, which is linked to their bank account. So as the shopper makes periodic contributions, the brand also contributes to the purchase when a customer hits certain milestones. So Jonathan, I want to go to you first again. Where does this register for you on a scale of 1 to 10 on the new ideas to watch scale? Are you in?
Well, okay. So it's a new idea to watch. I'm skeptical about its traction. First of all, I should say, as the parent of a 17-year-old daughter who operates on the concept of buy now, buy later, I like the idea of introducing the idea of save now, buy later. Yes. When I saw this story, I thought, this might be a teachable moment. We should sit down over dinner and discuss this idea. She just looked at me in that kind of, oh my God, kind of way. So that didn't go anywhere. But she actually is she is a specific example, I think, of a more general point. Because for the consumer, this is like angel versus devil on your shoulder, right? We've seen the huge expansion of buy now, pay later and all the innovation that's going on there, which is the instant gratification of credit-fueled purchase. And now we have the angel on the shoulder of kind of deferred gratification of saving-driven purchase. I think there's a real interesting question about who has greater traction in the market, the devil or the angel. I'm unsure. The other thing that I thought was interesting about this was I can see that there's a lot in it for the finance provider and the retailer. Clearly, a finance provider, you'll do arbitrage on the funds that you're holding and all those sorts of stuff. For the retailer, it creates a stickiness, which is the moment I've begun to save for something, I'm probably in for the purchase and I'm identified and I can potentially be traded up with, things like dollar matching and all that sort of stuff into the saving fund. I'm just struggling with what's in it for the consumer. That's what I had a real problem with. And I think for there to be something in it for the consumer, you have to believe that there's quite a pool of margin it creates that the retailer can give you quite rich deals back. And I'm struggling with that. So I want it to work from my kind of puritanical point of view, but I'm struggling.
Love that point of view. Dave, what about you? What are you thinking here? What do you have to add?
I'm just going to sit here laughing. I mean, to be honest, to call this new is laughable to me. This is like Sears in 1980 layaway. This is digitized, which I think, there's a subset of customers that will like. And if you step back, fintech is on fire, right? There's money chasing all these ideas. But one thing that I don't think has been talked about enough is some of those buy now, pay later models are starting to find that customers are delinquent and paying back. I think I'd read somewhere that 20 to 25% of customers that have used it in the last year have missed a payment. So in that world, this actually starts to become maybe a viable model or a more economically viable model and lower risk model that I think there's a real place in the market for it.
Yeah, Dave, I read the same thing, which, is always a concerning thing. But, again, same thing is happening with credit cards. So, buy now, pay later, just being another version of credit. But Chris is chomping at the bit here.
Oh, yeah, totally.
He's gonna blow us all away with what.
I just totally agree with David said. That's why I think I love it, because it's not new. It's just a technological twist on something that we've seen before, which makes me think it's gonna work, right? It's just facilitating layaway now for many, many more people. It's giving access to them for them to do that. And to your point, the dynamics of what's going to happen in the buy now, pay later space is what it is. And, we're going to see. And so the other thing I'd add too, which I think is a cool wrinkle, I think this gives a whole different perspective to like the special drops like that you see at a Nike or a fashion place, where it helps people get into that in a much lower risk way, a way that's not as detrimental to their credit history potentially. But David, I saw you want to jump back in. Go for it.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about this. I think this is akin to how major retailers can offer their own credit card. Like this gives a small retailer the chance to offer a layaway program, which I think is just a really interesting new underserved space that if I could invest in this, I certainly would.
Wow. Oh, and you poo-pooed this. You didn't even want to do this article. Okay.
Well, first of all,
you're on your own here. Go for it.
That's fine. First of all, no way in a drop case am I as a retailer going to take a layaway program instead of somebody who's willing to take the credit risk and buy it that day. There's no reason for them to do this at all. And so while I think that it makes sense, and I agree with Jonathan, like psychologically as a culture, should we be teaching people to save and not have the instant gratification that buy now, pay later and credit provides? I think it's a great idea and concept. My Scottish grandfather, who was saved every penny, would be like, yes, this is where the country should be going. But honestly, this is not the reality of the culture that we live in. I think, it might make sense in other categories, like maybe in grocery, like Tesco just released a program with like preloaded, basically layaway grocery programs this last week so that people can manage their grocery spend. But I think when you talk about things like on like drops, Chris, or anything, it does not make sense for any retailers to not only offer take somebody on credit or on layaway who also might not pay, and might not pay over the course of 8 to however many weeks, but also give them incentive to pay them to give them deals at certain points. No way is this going to go. I'm sorry. I love you all, but I'm not in it.
All right. Okay. All right. Jonathan, what do you think here?
Well, I've just realized that Anne's just invented a new concept called save now, be off trend later.
Yes, exactly.
Which is what it would be.
You're not even going to be able to take that Instagram picture if you don't have the product. So, I mean, if you're waiting 8 weeks later, nobody's going to care anymore.
No, I think there's David, go.
Yeah,
Let's
I
keep it-
disagree. And I think if you think about it from like an e-commerce perspective, like think of cart abandonment. If you give the
Yes.
person that was checking out and sees this big number and doesn't want to do it, the option to save now, pay later, I think there's a non-insignificant amount of people that wouldn't abandon their cart.
Yeah, I agree, Dave. I mean, I think I see that use case. I'm not saying this doesn't work for all retailers. I think where the rub really comes for me is in like where Chris is talking about like that luxury retailers or like drops are going to be affected or impacted by this. And there is no possible way there. I'm sorry, it's not.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. That shouldn't distract from the value of the whole idea in total. So then are you back on the train of this is a good idea in total?
I'm saying there are use cases for it. Do I think it's going to like overwhelm retail and we're going to see the same adoption of this that we do buy now, pay later? No, I don't.
No. Okay. Interesting. All right. Fascinating discussion. God, I love this show. This is so great.
Right.
We are going of all time.
It is. It's been fun. But let's get to the lightning round. So I'm going to go first here. Jonathan, you're on the spot first. Glassdoor just released their top 100 employers list and only one retailer made the top 25. That was Lululemon. Jonathan, if you were applying to jobs in stores right now, which retailer would be the first to receive your application?
Okay, this one's an easy one for me because it's a retailer. It's a retailer in Rochester, New York called A Whole Latte Love. So it's a coffee retailer, play on name there, Whole Latte Love. A, I'm a coffee geek, and B, it has to be one of the best names for a retailer anywhere in the world. So
oh my gosh. It's a close second to Frivolous, the store that we saw at the airport yesterday. For me.
That's right.
Yes, but
all right, David, you seem like a fast food connoisseur. So what is one fast food favorite that you think a voice recognition system would have trouble identifying for you if you tried to order it at your favorite drive-through restaurant?
Wow, I'm not sure if I should be insulted. I think I would go Taco Bell, which is a guilty pleasure. I'll go Crunch Wrap Supreme, which I can hardly even get out of my mouth right now. So I can imagine there's a lot of people that stumble on that one.
oh my gosh, I can only imagine what that would be on the screen. All right, let's go to the next one. So Jonathan, Dippin' Dots Ice Cream has announced a partnership with edible cutlery startup and Shark Tank finalist Incredible Eats. The startup is now expanding into edible straws, chopsticks, and more. Jonathan, if you were a shark, would you be offering Incredible Eats edible cutlery a deal?
Oh, I am so in on this.
You are.
Oh God, think about the angle on this. It's sustainability, plays into the eco trend, and it's a new kind of guilty pleasure. I don't have to order the extra scoop of ice cream. I just eat the cutlery.
Yeah, in addition to in a delicious cookie flavor. I love it. Sustainable and tasty.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, David, last question. And so glad you brought up Taco Bell. I was hoping you were going to go there on the last one. But to close this up, Decathlon announced this week that they're applying RFID throughout their entire store base, their product catalog inside their entire store base. If you were a decathlete, at which sport would you be better, javelin throwing or pole vaulting?
Oh, wow. I think pole vaulting requires a level of athletic ability that I lack. I'm going to go javelin throwing.
Javelin throwing the spear. All right, nice. Nicely done. All right, guys. Well, hey, that was a blast. Jonathan Sharp, David Ritter from the A&M Consumer and Retail Group. If those are listening, if people are listening, they want to get in touch with you guys, what's the best way for them to do that? David, why don't you go first?
I'll go first. D Ritter, RITTER @alvarezandmarsal.com, or our website is www.alvarezandmarsal-crg.com.
Awesome. Jonathan, same question to you.
I am jonathan.sharp @alvarezandmarsal.com. And there's lots of ways you can misspell those names, but that's fine. You'll work it out. And same website as Dave.
Awesome. All right. Well, that wraps up our show. Happy birthday day to Skeet Ulrich, Bill Maher, and the always unbelievable Lorenzo Lamas, and the person with the best alliteration ever in the history of names. And remember, if you can only read or listen to one retail blog in the business, make it OmniTalk. Our Fast Five podcast is the quickest, fastest rundown of all the week's top news, and our twice weekly newsletter tells you the top 5 things you need to know each day and also features special content exclusive to us and just for you. And it fits all within the preview pane of your inbox. You can sign up today at www.omnitalk.blog. Thanks as always for listening in. Please remember to like and leave us a review wherever you happen to listen to your podcast or on YouTube. Thanks again to David Ritter and Jonathan Sharp of the A&M Consumer and Retail Group for joining us today. And of course, as always, be careful out there.
The OmniTalk Fast 5 is a Microsoft-sponsored podcast. Microsoft Cloud for Retail connects your customers, your people, and your data across the shopper journey, delivering personalized experiences and operational excellence, and is also brought to you in association with the A&M Consumer and Retail Group. The A&M Consumer and Retail Group is a management consultant firm that tackles the most complex challenges and advances its clients, people, and communities toward their maximum potential. CRG brings the experience, tools, and operator-like pragmatism to help retailers and consumer products companies be on the right side of disruption. And Takeoff. Takeoff is transforming grocery by empowering grocers to thrive online. The key is micro-fulfillment, small robotic fulfillment centers that can be leveraged at a hyper-local scale. Takeoff also offers a robust software suite so grocers can seamlessly integrate the robotic solution into their existing businesses. To learn more, visit takeoff.com. And finally, Sezzle. Sezzle is an innovative buy now, pay later solution that allows shoppers to split purchases into 4 interest-free payments over 6 weeks. To learn more, visit Sezzle.com.